Ever pondered on the concept of intercession in Islam as referenced in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 255? This is a question that's been asked time and time again. This concept, often shrouded in mystery and intrigue, holds a significant place in the faith, as indicated by Surah Al-An'am, verse 51. It's a topic that has stirred curiosity and sparked spirited discussions within the Muslim community. What does intercession really mean in the context of Islam? As stated in Surah Al-Zumar, verse 44, has the power to intercede, and under what circumstances? These are questions that many grapple with, as suggested by Surah Yunus, verse 3. Dive deeper into this fascinating topic, referencing the Quran, shall we? Intercession, as detailed in the Quran, is a concept that is often misinterpreted. To unravel this, let's dive into the Quranic verses that elucidate this concept. The term intercession refers to the act of intervening on behalf of another, often through prayer. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 255 states, "Who is there that can intercede with him except by his permission?" This emphasizes that all intercession solely to God. This is a fundamental understanding, as any belief that others can intercede is considered akin to idol worship. Now let's venture into the Day of Judgment, as per Surah Al-Mudathir, verse 48. "Then there will not be for them any intercessor from among their Lord's creatures who could defend them." This verse implies that intercession may occur on this day, but here's the catch. It will only be considered if it aligns with God's will. This clearly indicates that even in the face of intercession, the ultimate decision always rests with God. It comes to the prophets and messengers, including Muhammad, Surah Al-Najm, verses 26. 27 states that they do not possess such power to intercede. Even the prophets appealed to God for the forgiveness of their loved ones, but it was always God's judgment that prevailed. Surah Al-An'am, verse 51 says, "And warn by it those who fear that they will be gathered before their Lord. For them besides him will be no protector and no intercessor, that they might become righteous." Moreover, on the Day of Judgment, Muhammad will voice his complaint about his people abandoning the Quran, as stated in Surah Al-Furqan, verse 30. So what's the bottom line? In the end, all intercession is in the hands of God, the most merciful. As God alone, according to Surah Al-Zumar, verse 44, holds the authority to accept or reject intercession, underscoring his ultimate sovereignty. The Quran's teachings on intercession are quite clear-cut, as laid out in numerous verses. For instance, in Quran 10:3, it firmly emphasizes that intercession is solely the domain of God. "Indeed, your Lord is God, who created the heavens and the earth, and none can intercede with him except by his permission." Also, Quran 39:44 asserts the same, say, "All intercession belongs to God." As we've explored, it is not within the power of any messengers or prophets to intercede. This point is reinforced by the Quran, specifically in the verse 651, where it says, "No guardian can help the disbeliever against God, and he cannot find for himself any intercession." This is a crucial concept to grasp, as it underscores the omnipotence of God's will and judgment. Muhammad himself, despite his esteemed position, could not intercede on behalf of his relatives or assure their salvation. As is indicated in Quran 6:70, "Leave alone those for whom religion is only a game and an amusement. They are deceived by the life of the world. Let them warn them of a day when they will be before us, and no soul will benefit from its faith as long as it did not believe before or earned good through its faith." This understanding of intercession, rooted in the Quranic verses, is an essential facet of faith. It serves as a stark reminder of our mortal limitations and the supremacy of God's will. So, as we navigate through life, Quran 18:27 reminds us that it is only those who believe in our revelations who, when reminded of them, fall down prostrate and glorify their Lord's praises, and they are not high-handed. On the Day of Judgment, Muhammad will complain about his people abandoning the Quran, as mentioned in Quran 25:30. The messenger says, "My Lord, my people have deserted this Quran." This is a stark reminder of the importance of adhering to God's commandments. Have you ever questioned the origins and implications of the practice of reciting Darood? It's a practice that's become a compulsory routine for many traditional Muslims. But where did it come from? Who started it? The practice of reciting Darood, an invocation to send blessings on Muhammad, was not something that emerged out of thin air. It was invented by Muhammad worshippers of earlier generations. They were the ones who began this practice, but it didn't stop there. It was further promoted and consolidated through various hadiths, sayings, and actions attributed to Muhammad. These hadiths played a pivotal role in solidifying the practice of reciting Darood among Muslims, making it a routine that many adhere to today. So the practice of reciting Darood was developed and solidified over time, but what were the purported benefits? The benefits of reciting Darood, as described in hadiths, are numerous and varied. These benefits range from the practical to the spiritual. On a practical level, reciting Darood is said to enhance memory, eradicate poverty, and provide solutions to complex problems. These tangible benefits are complemented by spiritual rewards and blessings that are believed to flow from the act of reciting Darood. However, this practice is not without its controversies. The most significant of these is the risk of associating the Prophet Muhammad with God, a theological transgression known as shirk. In the Islamic faith, shirk is considered the only unforgivable sin, one that directly contravenes the monotheistic principle at the heart of the religion. The practice of Darood, while seen as a form of devotion, can lead to the inadvertent elevation of the Prophet to a divine status. This, in turn, can lead to the violation of the Quranic command of not discriminating between messengers. Furthermore, the verse often used to justify Darood is argued to have been misinterpreted and taken out of context. The verse in question, 33:56, is believed to call for support of a living prophet rather than the utterance of flattery for a deceased idol. It's important to note that the command to support him in the verse was addressed to the Prophet's companions in Medina during wartime emergencies. In conclusion, while reciting Darood may be seen by some as a beneficial practice, it carries with it a potential risk of committing shirk. But to understand the full implications, we need to delve into the Quranic context. The verse often used to justify Darood is perhaps misinterpreted and taken out of context. This verse, chapter 33, verse 56 of the Quran, has been traditionally interpreted to call for blessings or salutations upon the Prophet Muhammad. However, a closer look at the context and language used suggests a different interpretation. The term salah, often translated as bless, might be more accurately understood as support. This reinterpretation shifts the meaning of the verse dramatically. Rather than instructing followers to constantly utter blessings for a prophet who is no longer with us, the verse seems to call for support of a living prophet. This interpretation aligns more closely with the Quranic command not to discriminate between messengers. It also avoids the potential of committing shirk or associating partners with God, which is considered the only unforgivable sin in Islam. So if this interpretation holds, the verse does not support the practice of reciting Darood with Muhammad's name every time. Instead, it emphasizes the importance of supporting the message and mission of living prophets. The practice of reciting Darood thus is not supported by the Quran or the historical context of the verse. It's important to question and understand the practices we follow. By doing so, we ensure that our actions align with the core tenets of our faith rather than simply following tradition without understanding its origins or implications. Have you ever pondered over the profound statement in the Quran that says, "Obey God and obey the Messenger"? Let's delve deeper into its essence. A prevalent conviction among Hadith followers is that obeying the Messenger translates to abiding by his Hadith and Sunnah. This interpretation proposes that to entirely comply with the teachings of the Messenger, one must adhere not merely to the Quran, but also to the Hadith and Sunnah. However, let's take a moment to unravel an important notion here. As stated in Quran 4:80, whoever obeys the Messenger has obeyed Allah. It's clear that obeying the Messenger means implementing the message he delivered. That message is none other than the Quran itself, the divine revelation. Quran 6:19 emphasizes this. This Quran has been revealed to me that I may warn you thereby and whomever it reaches. We are guided to obey not Muhammad as a person, but the messenger, the one who was selected to deliver God's final revelation to mankind. Now one might wonder, why does the Quran insist on appending obey the messenger after obey God? The answer to this lies within the role of Prophet Muhammad, encapsulated in Quran 5:99. The messenger's duty is only to convey in a clear way. He was the medium, ensuring that God's word reached every corner of the globe. The phrase "obey the messenger" serves a pivotal purpose. It distinguishes the Quran as the final revelation from God, superseding former scriptures. It's a proclamation that the Quran is the absolute source of divine guidance, the final word of God, and obeying the messenger is synonymous with upholding the teachings of the Quran, as stated in Quran 4:115. And whoever contravenes the messenger after the guidance has become clear to him and follows a path other than that of the believers, we will let him pursue what he is pursuing and will roast him in hell. What a terrible destination. Therefore, obeying the messenger in the scope of the Quran signifies obeying the message he brought forth, which is the Quran itself. After having understood the concept of obey the messenger, we might wonder about the place of hadith and sunnah in this context. The first point of clarification is essential. The Quran, in verses like 4:80 and 4:64, makes a critical distinction. It instructs us not to obey Muhammad or any other person, but to obey the messenger. This distinction is crucial as it demarcates the role of the messenger as the conveyor of God's message, the Quran. As Quran 6:19 clearly states, the only message given to Muhammad was the Quran, and there is no proof of any additional revelation outside of this. Therefore, any assertion about extra divine directives or teachings outside the Quran should be examined with healthy skepticism. This leads us to the discussion about hadith and sunnah. It is important to underline that they do not share the same authority as the Quran. They must not be seen as a second source of Islamic law or as an extension to the Quran. The Quran, as highlighted in 6:114-115, is the direct communication from God, whereas the Hadith and Sunnah are a compilation of sayings and practices ascribed to the messenger. A vital point to be remembered here is that God made a promise to safeguard the Quran, as stated in 15:9. However, such a pledge does not extend to the personal sayings or actions of the messenger. This absence of divine guarantee for preservation puts the authenticity of Hadith and Sunnah under scrutiny. Moreover, be aware, anything that is not from God will inevitably contain contradictions and corruptions. The Quran, being the word of God, is free from such inconsistencies, while Hadith and Sunnah, being human compilations, are prone to inaccuracies and distortions. Therefore, in light of Quranic verses and the teachings they embody, the Quran takes priority over Hadith and Sunnah. Obey the messenger, as per the Quran, signifies obeying the message that the messenger delivered, which is the Quran itself. Let's now focus on the Quran as the sole source for Islam. The Quran, as we've already established, is the direct communication from God. It stands as the only divine revelation in Islam. This conclusion is not a mere interpretation, but it is drawn from the Quran itself. The Quran makes it clear in verse 45:6, "These are God's revelations that we recite to you truthfully. In which hadith other than God and his revelations do they believe?" This verse, in unequivocal terms, asserts the Quran as the only source of guidance for Muslims. It challenges any additional source of religious guidance, including the Hadith and Sunnah, by asking, in which hadith other than God and his revelations do they believe? This question forces us to reconsider any other source of guidance apart from the Quran. It urges us to critically evaluate the authenticity and the authority of any such source. The verse further emphasizes the importance of God's revelations, which are recited truthfully, underlining the Quran's status as the primary and indeed the sole source of guidance. It also raises a significant question about the belief system of those who seek guidance outside of God's revelations. In conclusion, as emphasized by the verse, the Quran is the only source for Islam. It is the divine revelation that should guide our understanding, beliefs, and practices in Islam, leaving no room for any other source of religious authority or guidance.
Have you ever pondered over the true essence of obeying the messenger in Islam? This question has sparked many debates and interpretations. Traditionalists tend to interpret the Quranic instruction to obey God and the messenger, as mentioned in Surah An-Nisa 4:59, as a directive pointing towards Islamic secondary sources. They also reference Surah Al-Hashr 59:7, where it states, "And whatsoever the messenger gives you, take it, and whatsoever he forbids you, abstain from it," to underline the importance of following the messenger's teachings. However, this video presents an intriguing counter-argument. It proposes that obedience to the messenger is specific, time-bound, and strictly associated with the Quran itself, not the personal words or of the messenger. Intriguing, isn't it? Let's delve deeper into these arguments and uncover what they reveal. Firstly, the video presents the Quran as the only authority of Islam and the sole divine source of law as explicitly stated in the verse, "And whosoever does not judge by what follow it, and fear Allah that you may receive mercy." 6:155. These verses raise the question of the role of supplementary Islamic sources. If we consider the Quran, as these verses suggest, as the exclusive authority, it implies that anything outside of it cannot be recognized as Islam. This doesn't necessarily imply that other sources are invalid or unimportant, but rather, they don't hold the same divine authority as the Quran as emphasized authority. Positioning the Quran as the exclusive divine source of law, it's like a compass guiding the journey of faith, the primary reference point from which all other points are measured, a perspective that underscores the primacy of the Quran as a beacon of divine wisdom and guidance, as highlighted in "This is the book about which there is no doubt, AA for those conscious of Allah." 2:2. This in turn has significant implications for the interpretation of the instruction to obey the messenger. If the Quran is the sole divine source of law, then the obedience to the messenger becomes contextualized within the teachings of the Quran. This challenges our understanding of what it means to obey the messenger, as per obey Allah and obey the messenger, and secondly, the instruction to obey the messenger found in Surah An-Nisa 4:59 is seen as specific and time-bound. This perspective reshapes our understanding of the Quranic directive. It wasn't a blanket statement made in Surah Al-Hashr 59:7, but rather a pointed instruction for the people living during the time the Prophet Muhammad. It alludes to obeying the living messenger, the Prophet Muhammad, during his lifespan. As a divinely inspired reformer, as mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah 2:129, the leader of Medina, and a military commander during wartime emergencies as in Surah At-Tawbah 9:122, the Prophet held multiple roles. Each role was crucial in its historical setting, and the directive to obey him was directly associated with these roles. Thus, the command to obey was not an everlasting directive, but one that was applicable to the context of the prophets as indicated in Surah Al-Imran 3:31. Sometimes we are prone to view religious texts through the lens of infinity, forgetting that they were revealed in a specific historical context, as emphasized in Surah Al-Baqarah 2:185. However, grasping this time-bound nature of the directive allows us to see the Quranic instruction in a novel light. It underlines the significance of context in interpreting religious texts and offers a renewed perspective on the traditionalist understanding of obeying the messenger. Finally, the messenger is equated with the message, as perfectly encapsulated in Surah An-Nisa, verse 80. He who obeys the messenger obeys Allah. A messenger is always someone who delivers someone else's message. In the context of the Quran, this is further affirmed in Surah An-Nahl, verse 36. We certainly sent into every nation a messenger to worship Allah and avoid false deities. Thus we understand that the messenger was not an autonomous authority. He did not possess the power to issue, amend, or cancel any religious laws on his own. He was not a co-author with God in divine legislation or judgment. Instead, his role was that of a conduit, a vessel for the divine message. The only message delivered by the messenger was the Quran, a profound testament to his role as a messenger, not a legislator. This understanding of the messenger's role brings us to a crucial realization, one that Surah Al-Hashr, verse 7, emphasizes. Whatever the messenger gives you, take, and whatever he forbids you, refrain from. When we speak of obeying the messenger, what we really mean is obeying the message he conveyed to the world. This message, the Quran, is the embodiment of the messenger's mission. It is the essence of his teachings, wisdom, and his guidance. It is the divine message that he was chosen to deliver to humanity. Therefore, in the aftermath of the prophet's life, obeying the messenger equates to following the teachings of the Quran. The Quran, as the messenger's message, continues to guide us, to inspire us, and to serve as a beacon of divine wisdom. This redefines our understanding of the role of the messenger and the nature of his message. In conclusion, the video presents a compelling argument that challenges traditionalist views. substantiated by several Quranic references. It emphatically underlines that the Quran, as mentioned in 619, is the sole authority of Islam, the only divine source of law. Anything outside of it, according to 6:114, cannot be considered Islam. The instruction to obey the messenger it suggests is specific and time-bound, referring to the living messenger's role during his lifetime, as stated in 4:84, 64, and not beyond. Furthermore, it argues with reference to 10:15 that the messenger in his role was not authorized to amend or issue religious laws, but was merely a conduit for the divine message, the Quran. The video also addresses the misconception of blindly following the personal opinions and ideas of the messenger, as cautioned against in 33:36. The Quran, it emphasizes, deals with Muhammad the messenger, not Muhammad the person, indicated in 3:144. The messenger's role is equated with the message he delivered, as posited in 5:99. Thus, obeying the messenger after his death means adhering to the messages conveyed in the Quran, as signified by 3:32. The video invites us to reconsider, with support from 7:3, what it means to obey the messenger in Islam, suggesting that it is about obeying the message delivered, which is the Quran, and not the alleged personal words or deeds of the messenger.
Have you ever pondered over the profound concept of sujud? Sujud, in its essence, is an act of obedience, much like what is mentioned in Quran 22:77. O you who have believed, bow and prostrate and worship your Lord and do good, that you may succeed. It's about willingly complying with the wishes, rules, commands, orders, or instructions of an authority. This principle is not just confined to the realm of human interactions, it's a universal law that resonates throughout creation, as mentioned in Quran 16:49. And to Allah prostrate all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth of the moving creatures and the angels, and they are not proud. From the smallest microorganism to the grand celestial bodies in the cosmos, everything strictly abides by divine rules or laws. The sun following its ordained path, as explained in Quran 36:38, and the sun runs on its fixed course for a term appointed. That is the decree of the Almighty, the All-Knowing. The seasons changing in their due time, and even the humblest creature instinctively knowing its role in the grand scheme of things, as mentioned in Quran 16:48. Do they not observe things that Allah has created, how their shadows incline to thee and to the left, making prostration to Allah, and they are utterly submissive? This too is a form of sujud. It's about acknowledging the divine order that governs the universe and embracing our part in it. It's about aligning our will with the divine will and living our lives in a way that reflects this understanding, much like what is stated in Quran 2:208. O you who have believed, enter into submission completely and do not follow the footsteps of Satan. Indeed, he is to you a clear enemy. So when we talk about sujud, we're not just discussing a physical act. We're delving into a profound spiritual discipline that permeates our whole existence, as emphasized in Quran 51:56. And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. It is not just a physical act, but a profound spiritual discipline that permeates our whole existence. Sujud is not simply a ritualistic act confined to, it transcends the limits of conventional worship, infusing every facet of our lives. This profound act of submission can also represent obedience to human authority, mirroring our willingness to adhere to established norms and practices. Now let's delve into the Quran. In Surah Al-Hajj, verse 77, the Quran calls upon the believers, saying, O you who have believed, bow and prostrate and worship your Lord and do good, that you may succeed. Furthermore, Surah Al-Araf, verse 206, emphasizes the broader context of sujud, stating, Indeed, those who are near your Lord are not prevented by arrogance from his worship, and they exalt him, and to him they prostrate. These verses highlight the essence of sujud, extending its significance beyond mere physical prostration. They underscore the importance of obedience, not merely in worship, but in our daily actions as well. Sujud, in its broader sense, is about living a life guided by the divine message. It's about allowing this divine counsel to shape our thoughts, actions, and decisions. It's about recognizing our place in a larger cosmic order where everything from celestial bodies to the smallest creatures adheres divine laws. In its essence, sujud is about living mindfully, aware of our actions and their consequences. It's about leading a life of purpose, guided by the principles established by the divine. It's about striving to do good, to improve, to make a difference. This interpretation of sujud takes it from the realm of ritual to the sphere of life philosophy, way of life revolving around obedience to the divine. It becomes a continual reminder of our place in the universe, our responsibilities and our potential. When we speak of sujud, we are not merely discussing the physical act of prostration during prayer. We are talking about an mindset, a lifestyle. We are discussing a lifestyle of obedience to the divine, a lifestyle in harmony with the universe and its laws. So, sujud is not just about the physical act of prostration, but about a lifestyle of obedience to the divine. Let's explore further into the splendor of personal sujud. Consider it as a dialogue, not with just anyone, but with the creator of the cosmos, the originator of all that exists. This is what personal sujud brings to us. A profound personal conversation with our Maker, a spiritual interaction that surpasses our physical realm and reaches the very essence of our existence. As we delve into the beauty of personal sujud, let's bring to mind the Quranic verse from Surah Al-Baqarah 152, "So remember me, I will remember you, and be grateful to me and do not deny me." Further in Surah Al-Imran, verse 191, we find, "Who remember Allah while standing or sitting or lying on their sides and give thought to the creation of the heavens and the earth." These verses magnify the importance of this personal bond, where our memory of the divine is reciprocated with divine remembrance of us. This mutual recognition solidifies our tie with the Maker, nourishes our spirit. Reflecting on this, when we perform sujud, it's not merely a ritual. We are expressing our obedience, gratitude, and submission to the divine power, acknowledging the divine presence in our lives, consciously choosing to align with the divine will, and living in harmony with the laws of the universe. Through sujud, we foster a deep personal affiliation with our Maker. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 165, which states, "Yet there are some people who take others as equals to Allah, loving them as they should love Allah," guides us in understanding that our purpose in life is more than the mundane and temporal. It links us to the eternal, to the divine. Sujud is not a mere physical act. It's an emotional surrender, a mental alignment, and a spiritual journey, as expressed in Surah Az-Zumar, verse 9, "Is one who is devoutly obedient during periods of the night, prostrating and standing in prayer, fearing the hereafter and hoping for the mercy of his Lord, like one who does not?" In the quiet and solitude of personal sujud, we discover peace, clarity, and enlightenment, our place in the cosmos and our connection to the divine. Therefore, sujud is not only an act, but also a lifestyle, a mindset, and a spiritual voyage. In summary, sujud is more than a physical act. As the Quran beautifully illustrates in Surah Al-Hajj, verse 77, it's an act of obediently complying with both divine and human authority. This obedience, as exemplified in Surah An-Nahl, verse 49, permeates every aspect of life, reflecting a lifestyle that's aligned with the divine. Sujud is not just confined to ritual prayer, as indicated in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 83, but extends beyond it, becoming a way to cultivate a deep personal relationship with our Maker. As Surah Al-Araf, verse 206 proclaims, it is a universal act, observed in every element of creation, and is a beautiful form of communication with our inner selves. Through sujud, referenced in Surah Al-Fatiha, verse 5, we can truly fulfill our purpose in life and connect with the divine on a deeply personal level.
Have you ever questioned the common understanding of Siyam? Many of us have been led to believe that Siyam, commonly known in the Islamic faith, is synonymous with fasting. But what if we told you that there's more to Siyam than just abstaining from food and drink? In fact, a closer look at the Quranic verses, specifically verses 283 to 187, suggests that Siyam is more about self-control and contemplation of divine messages. It's about refraining from unsettling thoughts and seeking divine guidance through a deeper study of the Quran. It's not just about physical restraint, but also about mental discipline and spiritual growth. It emphasizes the importance of not consuming others' wealth unjustly and not transgressing the boundaries set by God. The term Shahru Ramadan, contrary to popular belief, refers to the manifestation of inner burning, not a specific month. This revelation may challenge the conventional understanding, but it offers a more profound interpretation of Siyam. It's time to delve deeper into the true meaning of Siyam. Let's study the verses 183, 187 from the Quran to gain a deeper insight into Siyam. These verses bring to light an alternate interpretation of Siyam, one that emphasizes the importance of abstaining from unsettling thoughts and seeking divine guidance. Instead of simply viewing Siyam as a physical fast, these verses encourage us to understand it as a period of self-control and contemplation, a time to immerse ourselves in the divine messages of the Quran. Let's delve deeper into the phrase Shahru Ramadan. Traditional interpretations might connect this term to a specific month in the Islamic calendar, but an alternative understanding suggests it refers to the manifestation of inner burning. This interpretation encourages us to view the period of Siyam as a time of intense spiritual focus and personal growth, not bound by the constraints of a calendar month. The verses also bring up the notion of not consuming others' wealth unjustly. This concept further expands the scope of Siyam, moving it beyond the confines of personal abstinence and into the realm of social ethics. It nudges us to reflect on our actions and their impact on others, promoting a more just and equitable society. Lastly, we must not overlook the mention of not transgressing the boundaries set by God. This serves as a reminder that Siyam is not merely a physical or social practice, but a deeply spiritual one. It calls for respect for divine commandments and adherence to the path of righteousness and moderation. So what can we gather from these verses? Siyam, as portrayed here, is not just about fasting from food and drink. It is a comprehensive practice encompassing self-control, contemplation of divine messages, ethical behavior, and respect for divine boundaries. As we can see, Siyam is a spiritual practice that goes beyond physical abstinence. Let's recap what we've learned about Siyam. In essence, it's not simply about fasting, but rather, it represents a practice of self-control and deep contemplation of divine messages. It's about taking time to delve into the Quran, to seek divine guidance and gain a deeper understanding of life's bigger picture. Now, the phrase Shahru Ramadan might have been traditionally interpreted as a specific month, but a fresh perspective suggests that it actually refers to the manifestation of inner burning, a time to truly reflect and grow spiritually. We also discussed the teachings against consuming others' wealth unjustly. This emphasizes the importance of fairness, justice, and respecting the rights and boundaries set by God. It's a reminder that our actions should always be guided by these principles, not just during Siyam, but in our everyday lives as well. In conclusion, Siyam is more than a ritual. It's a spiritual journey, a time for self-reflection and growth, a time to seek clarity and understanding. Remember, Siyam is about seeking clarity and understanding through studying the Quran and seeking divine guidance. So, what does understanding Siyam in this new light mean for us? Well, it's like discovering a whole new perspective on a familiar path. This understanding of Siyam, as not merely fasting but a practice of self-control through Quran study, can truly transform our approach. It's not just about abstaining from food or drink, but about cultivating a mindset of patience, understanding, and introspection. It's about separating ourselves from unsettling thoughts and focusing on the divine messages within the Quran. It's about seeking divine guidance, not just during a specific month, but as a continual process of spiritual growth and self-improvement. This understanding also encourages us to question and explore our beliefs. It reminds us that faith isn't about blind adherence, but about seeking a deeper understanding of the divine messages. It challenges us to not just read, but to contemplate, to reflect, and to apply the teachings of the Quran in our daily lives. So, let's not be afraid to question, to seek, to explore. Let's not just go through the motions, but truly understand and embrace our faith. Let's embark on this journey of understanding and embracing the true essence of Siyam as guided by the Quran.
What is the true profession of faith in Islam, you might ask? The answer is beautifully articulated in the sacred verses of the Quran. Quranic verse 112, 1:4, "Say he is Allah who is one," underscores the foundational belief of Islam, the testimony there is no God but God, or La ilaha illa Allah. which stands as the true profession of faith in Islam. This powerful phrase, so straightforward yet so profound, affirms God's oneness and uniqueness. It's a testimonial that God himself bears witness to, as stated in Quran 3:18, God bears witness that there is no God but He. This is a testament to the purest form of monotheism, acknowledging only one true God. Moreover, the Quran, in verse 17:22, is explicit in its condemnation of associating any partners with God. Set not up with Allah any other God, O man, lest thou sit down reproved, forsaken. It is clear-cut and unambiguous. There are no additions, no alterations. The faith is utterly and purely in the oneness of God, nothing and no one else. Therefore, the very core of faith in Islam is the firm affirmation of God's oneness, without any association. Now let's delve into the context of this profession of faith, specifically citing Surah Imran, the 3rd chapter of the Quran. Surah Imran serves as a profound source for comprehending the Islamic testimony of faith. The chapter richly elucidates the essence of monotheism, the central tenet of Islam, which is the assertion of God's singularity. It also emphasizes the importance of solely worshipping God, as illustrated in the verse, "Serve none but God." This verse distinctly underlines that no being, human or otherwise, should be worshipped or held in the same regard as God. This unwavering dedication to monotheism is a pivotal aspect of Islamic faith, echoed consistently throughout the Quran. In addition, Surah Imran strongly discourages the notion of recognizing humans as lords or authorities alongside God. The verse that we erect not from among ourselves lords other than God emphasizes that humans are not to be treated as divine entities, serving as a warning against idolatry and reinforcing the idea of God's oneness. Further, Surah Imran advocates the unity of all humanity under one God. The verse, "Come to a statement common between us and you," signifies a universal invitation to unity and harmony. It encourages all of mankind to unite on the common platform of belief in one God. The chapter also highlights the equal respect for all prophets, as emphasized in the verse, "We make no distinction between any of his messengers," an echo of the Islamic belief that all prophets, regardless of their time or place, delivered the consistent message of monotheism. Lastly, Surah Imran offers assurance of salvation for righteous individuals from all backgrounds with the verse, "Those who believe and those who are Jews and the Christians will have their reward." This verse communicates that righteousness is the key to salvation, irrespective of one's religious affiliation. Thus, Surah Imran provides a comprehensive understanding of the testimony of faith, emphasizing the oneness of God and unity of all people. The Prophet Muhammad played a pivotal role in upholding the principle of monotheism enshrined in the testimony, "There is no God but God." Delving deeper into the Quran and the Hadith, we find numerous instances where Prophet Muhammad upheld this testimony, despite facing severe ridicule and opposition. For example, the Prophet Muhammad faced significant mockery when he began to publicly preach the message of monotheism in Mecca, a city deeply entrenched in idolatry. During the incident of Taif, he was pelted with stones and was physically and verbally abused for propagating monotheism. Yet he persisted, highlighting his unyielding conviction. He also challenged the prevalent idol worship in Mecca directly during the conquest of Mecca, where he entered the Kaaba and, in a profound act of defiance against idolatry, cleared the holy shrine of all the idols that were being worshipped, thereby reinstating the Kaaba as a monument of monotheism. The Quran resonates with these instances, particularly in verse 41, 37 of Surah Fusilat, where it says, "Do not prostrate to the sun or to the moon, but prostrate to Allah who created them," which is a clear statement against idol worship. Furthermore, the Quranic verse 3:18 of Surah Al-Imran, "There is no God but He, that is the witness of Allah, His angels, and those endowed with knowledge," reiterates the importance of maintaining the purity of the testimony and serving Allah alone. Despite these clear teachings, however, some Muslims today still add holy names to this testimony, which subtly shifts the focus away from God's absolute oneness and dilutes the essence of the message. This practice contradicts the Quran's creed of pure monotheism, as evidenced in verse 448 of Surah An-Nisa. "Indeed, Allah does not forgive association with him, but he forgives what is less than that for whom he wills. Therefore, the Prophet Muhammad, through his exemplary life, reinforced the core principle of God's oneness, challenged idol worship, and promoted pure monotheism. In conclusion, the testimony of faith in Islam is beautifully simple, yet profoundly powerful. This statement encapsulates the heart of the Islamic faith, anchoring a Muslim's belief system. It's not merely a phrase, but a declaration of faith, a pledge to monotheism, and an affirmation of the absolute oneness of God, as echoed in Quranic verses. As we recall our discussion, we started with the essence of Shahada, the testimony which states, "There is no God but God," a phrase resonating the profound concept of monotheism, a truth reverberated throughout the Quran, especially in verses like 2, 163 and 112, 1, 4. We then delved into the context provided by Surah, which accentuates the importance of worshipping God alone. This surah warns against elevating humans to God's status and calls for unity around the concept of one God. It also assures salvation for the righteous, regardless of their religious background, as stated in verse 262. Our exploration then led us to the Prophet Muhammad's relationship with the testimony. Despite ridicule, the Prophet tenaciously upheld the simple yet powerful truth encapsulated in the phrase, "There is no God but God." He affirmed that all prophets before him taught the same truth about God's oneness, a truth that threatens idol worship, as emphasized in verses like 21-25. Regrettably, some Muslims today add holy names to the testimony, a practice that contradicts the Quran's creed of pure monotheism, exemplified in verses like 3:18. The Quranic Shahada, or testimony of faith, is just, "There is no God but God," without any added names. Surah Imran categorically condemns any alterations of this creed and invites everyone to unite the core Islamic principle of God's absolute oneness, as resonated in verses like 3:19. This is the central message of the Quranic testimony of faith. The profession of faith in Islam, therefore, is a testament to the oneness of God, a call for unity, and a promise of salvation for the righteous, irrespective of their background, as affirmed in verses like 2, 112. This is the powerful, profound, and beautifully simple essence of the Islamic faith, as elucidated through the Quranic verses we've discussed. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Gabriel is more than a messenger. In the Quran, Gabriel is known as the Holy Spirit. He delivered God's words to the Prophet Muhammad. But Gabriel represents something deeper. He symbolizes the force of inspiration within each of us. Imagine a power that connects us to something greater. This force lies dormant until awakened. It guides us, teaches us, and unveils hidden truths. This is the essence of Gabriel. This concept transcends religious boundaries. It speaks to the universal human experience of seeking knowledge and meaning. We all possess this inner potential for inspiration and insight. Think about a time you faced a difficult decision. You may have struggled to find the right path. Then, suddenly, a solution appeared. This moment of clarity, this flash of insight, can be attributed to Gabriel's whisper. Gabriel doesn't announce himself with trumpets. It's a subtle whisper, a gentle nudge guiding the faithful. We must learn to recognize and interpret his signals. Gabriel is within us all. This inner voice doesn't offer easy answers or dictate our every move. It guides us towards understanding. As the Quran says, the Holy Spirit has brought it down from your Lord in truth. Gabriel, referred to as a messenger, brings divine revelations to the prophets. This highlights the unique role Gabriel plays in the spiritual narrative of the Quran. What's something people don't know about Gabriel? Many believe Gabriel is merely an angel, but the Quran provides a deeper insight. The Quran itself supports the concept of inner inspiration. Verse 26, 192 to 194 states, "And indeed, it is a revelation of the Lord of the worlds. The trustworthy Spirit has brought it down upon your heart." This verse suggests that Gabriel's role is to place the Quran upon the heart, the seat of intuition and understanding. Furthermore, verse 298 reads, "And it has come as guidance and good tidings for the believers." Here the Quran is described as guidance. This guidance comes from within, sparked by the force of Gabriel. Verse 66, 4 also hints at this inner connection. And when your wives had whispered. This verse, though referring to a specific event, uses the word whisper, which can also be interpreted metaphorically. It points to the subtle ways divine guidance might present itself. Illumination through revelation. Revelation illuminates the path of the righteous. We begin to see the interconnectedness of all things. This understanding brings peace and purpose to our lives. This is not about blind faith. It's about cultivating a relationship with our inner selves. It's about trusting the whispers of wisdom that arise from deep within. This journey of self-discovery is unique for everyone. The force of Gabriel acts as a guide, but we must be willing to embark on the journey ourselves, awakening the force, contemplation, and meditation. So how do we awaken this dormant force within? Contemplation and meditation are key. By quieting our minds and turning inward, we create space for inspiration to emerge. This doesn't require hours of secluded practice. It can be as simple as taking a few moments each day to reflect. Pay attention to your thoughts and feelings. Listen to the whispers of your heart. The more we cultivate this inner connection, the stronger the force of Gabriel becomes. As the Quran says, "Verily in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest." Gabriel's enduring message, "Seek and you shall find the truth." Gabriel embodies the power of inspiration that resides within us all. By understanding him as a metaphor, we unlock a deeper level of meaning in the Quran. The Quran encourages us to seek knowledge, to ponder the mysteries of the universe. This pursuit of understanding is not merely intellectual, it is deeply spiritual. As we quiet our minds, contemplate the world around us, and listen to the whispers of our hearts, we awaken the force of Gabriel within. This force, this divine inspiration, illuminates our path and leads us toward the truth. Right then, let's jump into this. Today I'm diving into the misinterpretation of Surah 3, verse 86 of the Quran. This verse has been seriously misunderstood, and it's high time we cleared things up. Okay, so here's the verse, chapter 3, verse 86. How can God guide a people who disbelieved after their belief, when they had already witnessed that the messenger was truthful and when clear proofs had come to them? God does not guide the transgressing people. Now, some folks out there, and you might have heard this, reckon this verse justifies a shahada for Prophet Muhammad. They're pointing to the words witness and messenger in this verse as evidence. But hang on a sec, let's break this down properly. First up, let's look at the context. This verse is actually talking about disbelievers and their rejection. It's about people who turned away after knowing the truth. The whole verse is a bit of a wake-up call about rejecting faith. So it doesn't make sense to use the actions of disbelievers to justify any religious practice, does it? God's laws come directly from Him to the believers, clear as day, not from what disbelievers say or do. Now let's zoom in on the phrase, "the messenger was truthful." This simply means that the messenger, Prophet Muhammad, was genuine and came with the truth. It doesn't say anything about needing a shahada for the messenger. The verse is emphasizing that even with clear proofs and a truthful messenger, these people still rejected faith. To properly understand the shahada, let's flip back to chapter 3, verse 18. God bears witness that there is no God except Him, and so do the angels and those who possess knowledge, upholding justice. There is no God except Him, the dignified, the wise. This is the shahada authorized by God. It's pretty straightforward, right? It only mentions God's name, and it's uttered by God, the angels, and knowledgeable people. Interestingly, the only ones in the Quran who utter a shahada for Prophet Muhammad are the hypocrites in chapter 63, verse 1. So those who claim the shahada for Prophet Muhammad is legit often skip over 3:18 and 63:1 and instead point to 3:86. But as we've seen, 3:86 isn't about establishing a shahada at all. To wrap this up, it's crucial to understand the context and the specific wording of the Quran. Misinterpreting verses can lead to significant misunderstandings about religious practices. Always look at the bigger picture and remember God's instructions are clear and direct. Associating partners with God, known as shirk, is a grave sin. The Quran states in chapter 4, verse 48, "Indeed, Allah does not forgive association with Him, but He forgives what is less than that for whom He wills." Additionally, it's important not to make distinctions between God's messengers. Chapter 2, verse 285 says, "The messenger has believed in what was revealed to him from his Lord, and so have the believers. All of them have believed in Allah and his angels and his books and his messengers, saying, 'We make no distinction between any of his messengers.'" If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with others who might need a bit of clarity. Catch you in the next one. The Quran, the holy book of Islam, claims to be the sole divine source of law for Muslims. It insists that it is complete and self-explanatory. This means that everything a Muslim needs to know for guidance is contained within its verses. The Quran emphasizes its divine origin and asserts that it is detailed and clear. It sees itself as a comprehensive guide that requires no other sources for understanding. Being divinely inspired, the Quran holds a unique position in Islam. It calls itself a book of wisdom and guidance revealed by Allah to the Prophet Muhammad. The Quran asserts its clarity and precision, making it accessible to everyone. Muslims believe that the Quran is the final revelation from Allah. This finality and completeness underscore its authority. Understanding the Quran's claim of self-explanation and divine authority is crucial to appreciating its role in Islam. The Quran often describes itself as self-explaining. One of the verses that highlight this is Surah Al-Qiyamah, chapter 75, verse 19, which states, "And then it is for us to explain it." This verse emphasizes that the Quran does not need external text to explain its meaning. Allah Himself has ensured that the Quran is clear and accessible. Another important verse is Surah Hud, chapter 11, verse 1, which begins with Alif, Lam, Ra. This is a book whose verses are perfected and then presented in detail from one who is wise and acquainted. This verse underscores the perfection and detailed nature of the Quran. Surah Al-Furqan, chapter 25, verse 33, also supports the self-explanatory nature of the Quran. It states, "And they do not come to you with an argument except that we bring you the truth and the best explanation." These verses collectively underscore the Quran's claim to be self-explaining. Believers are encouraged to engage directly with the Quran, trusting in its inherent clarity and wisdom. The Quran also asserts its completeness and detail. This is crucial for its role as the sole source of Islamic law. Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 97 states, "And it is He who placed for you the stars that you may be guided by them through the darknesses of the land and sea. We have detailed the signs for a people who know." This verse highlights how the Quran provides detailed guidance. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 3, Allah proclaims, "This day I have perfected for you your religion and completed my favor upon you and have approved for you Islam as religion." This verse asserts the completeness of the Quran, suggesting that no further revelations are needed. Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 38, further emphasizes the Quran's completeness. "We have not neglected in the register a thing, then unto their Lord they will be gathered." These verses collectively reinforce the idea that the Quran is a comprehensive guide. Its detailed nature ensures that believers have all the information they need. The Quran's completeness underscores its authority as the ultimate source of Islamic law and guidance. The Quran emphasizes that its teachings are easy to understand. Surah Al-Qamar, chapter 54, verse 17 states, "And we have certainly made the Quran easy for remembrance, so is there any who will remember?" This verse highlights the Quran's simplicity and ease of understanding. The repetition of this verse underscores the importance of the Quran's clarity and simplicity. It ensures that all believers can engage with its teachings without needing external explanations. Why the Quran should be the sole religious authority? The Quran asserts that it should be the sole religious authority in Islam. Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 114 questions, "Then is it other than Allah I should seek as judge, while it is He who has revealed to you the book explained in detail?" This verse emphasizes that the Quran, revealed by Allah, should be the ultimate source of judgment. Surah Ar-Rum, chapter 30, verse 35, further supports this by asking, "Or have we sent down to them an authority?" and it speaks of what they were associating with him. The Quran's emphasis on its self-sufficiency and detail means that no other texts are needed to understand its teachings. Believers are encouraged to rely solely on the Quran for guidance. This centrality of the Quran reinforces its unique role in guiding Muslims. Critique of using hadith and other sources. The Quran critiques the use of supplementary texts like hadith. Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 79 warns, "So woe to those who write the scripture with their own hands, then say, 'This is from Allah,' in order to exchange it for a small price." This verse criticizes those who create additional texts and falsely attribute them to Allah. The Quran's emphasis on its completeness and detail suggests that supplementary texts are unnecessary. These additional texts can lead to confusion and misinterpretation of the divine message. The Quran's clarity and self-explanatory nature mean that external sources are not needed. Using hadith and other texts can also introduce human error into the interpretation of Islamic law. By critiquing the use of supplementary texts, the Quran emphasizes its own sufficiency as the sole source of guidance. Believers are encouraged to engage directly with the Quran, trusting in its divine clarity and precision. Instruction to follow only the Quran. The Quran instructs believers to follow only its teachings. Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 106 states, "Follow, O Muhammad, what has been revealed to you from your Lord. There is no deity except Him, and turn away from those who associate others with Allah." This verse emphasizes the importance of following only the Quran. Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 155, further instructs, "And this Quran is a book we have revealed which is blessed, so follow it and fear Allah that you may receive mercy." Believers are encouraged to follow the Quran to receive Allah's mercy. Surah Al-Araf, chapter 7, verse 3 also emphasizes, "Follow, O mankind, what has been revealed to you from your Lord, and do not follow other than Him any allies." This verse warns against following other sources of guidance. By instructing believers to follow only the Quran, these verses highlight the importance of relying solely on the divine message. This ensures that the teachings of Islam remain pure and unaltered. Reading the Quran thoughtfully. The Quran encourages believers to read it thoughtfully and with understanding. Surah Taha, verse 114, advises, "So high above all is Allah, the Sovereign, the Truth. And O Muhammad, do not hasten with recitation of the Quran before its revelation is completed to you and say, 'My Lord, increase me in knowledge.'" This verse encourages a thoughtful and deliberate approach to reading the Quran. Surah Az-Zumar, verse 23, describes the Quran as the best statement, a consistent book wherein is reiteration. Surah Al-Muzammil, verse 4, advises, "Or add to it and recite the Quran with measured recitation." By reading the Quran thoughtfully, believers can fully appreciate its guidance and wisdom. Thoughtful reading allows believers to connect with the Quran on a deeper level. Consistency and integrity of the Quran. The Quran emphasizes its consistency and integrity. Surah An-Nisa, verse 82 states, "Then do they not reflect upon the Quran? If it had been from any other than Allah, they would have found within it much contradiction." This verse highlights the Quran's consistency, which underscores its divine origin. The consistency of the Quran is a key aspect of its authority. Surah Al-Hijr, verse 9 states, "Indeed it is we who sent down the Quran, and indeed we will be its guardian." This verse assures believers that the Quran is protected by Allah and will remain unaltered. The consistency and integrity of the Quran reinforce its role as the ultimate guide for Muslims. Believers can rely on its teachings, knowing that they are consistent and divinely protected. Adaptability of the Quran to advancing human knowledge. The Quran's teachings are adaptable to advancing human knowledge. Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 37 states, "Man was created of haste. I will show you my signs, so do not impatiently urge me." This verse suggests that the Quran's signs will become more evident over time as human knowledge advances. Surah Fussilat, verse 53 states, "We will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth." This verse suggests that the Quran's signs will become clear over time as human understanding grows. The adaptability of the Quran to advancing human knowledge ensures that its teachings remain relevant. This adaptability reinforces the Quran's role as a timeless guide for humanity. Conclusion: the Quran as the ultimate guide. In conclusion, the Quran positions itself as the only authoritative and divine source of law in Islam. Its self-explanatory nature, completeness, and simplicity underscore its unique role. The Quran critiques the use of supplementary texts and instructs believers to follow only its teachings. The Quran encourages thoughtful reading and emphasizes its consistency and integrity. Its teachings are adaptable to advancing human knowledge, ensuring that it remains a relevant and timeless guide. By relying solely on the Quran, believers can ensure that the teachings of Islam remain pure and unaltered. The Quran's clear and detailed guidance provides everything a Muslim needs for faith and practice. As the final revelation from Allah, the Quran stands as the ultimate guide for Muslims, providing clear and comprehensive teachings for all aspects of life.